Hello, Frederick Cybersecurity, protecting medium enterprises, daily business intelligence brief, weekly roundup. This is the podcast for the daily business intelligence brief weekly roundup for the week of 27th to 31st July 2026, Monday 27th, and ending Friday 31st July. I'm welcoming you to Frederick Cybersecurity Weekly Roundup. I am Frederick Wakuliaka. It is Friday. Yesterday was Friday, the 31st of July 2026, and this is your intelligence summary for that week. Every weekday, the Business Intelligence Brief delivers 3 intelligence items: a threat, a business story, and an AI development every single day. We issue three intelligence items. First of all, there is a benefit in knowing what kind of threat you are facing for that from an adversary for that day. Then we have a business story for the business analysts and people concerned with the business managerial capacity. Then we have an AI development, all 3 in 1. This is a format This format is designed for a managing director who has 5 minutes, not 50. So this weekly recording does something different. It steps back, pulls the 15 stories from Monday through Friday together, and asks a more important question. What did this week tell us as a whole? That is what we are trying to the question we are trying to answer for in this weekly summary. Every week we try to answer this question. What did this week as a whole tell us? The answer this week is unusually clear, and if you carry nothing else from this recording, carry this. Every single working day this week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, a new critical vulnerability was disclosed or confirmed under active attack. In every case, the flow allowed an attacker to bypass authentication entirely. No password, no credentials, no social engineering was required. That is not a run of bad luck. That is a structural condition in how enterprise software is built and deployed. This week was the clearest illustration of that condition I have seen in the past 12 months of publishing this brief. Alongside the vulnerability picture, a second pattern emerged this week that I want you to hold in parallel. Artificial intelligence was used as a weapon inside a government network on Monday, as a tool for building root-level exploits on Wednesday, and as a security operations capability on Tuesday and Friday. The technology is moving in both directions simultaneously, and this week showed you both sides in the same 5-day window. Let us go through the week now. Monday, 27th July, the browser as a weapon and the bounty that shrank. Monday's threat intelligence lead introduced a technique that should concern every business that has invested in network monitoring. A ransomware group hiding its command traffic inside the browser your staff are already using. Cisco Talos attributed a new remote access tool named MSA-RAT to the Chaos ransomware group. Rather than connecting to an attacker-controlled server over the network, which security tools are built to flag, MSA-RAT launches a hidden Chrome or Edge browser session and routes its commands through the browser's own debugging interface. From a monitoring perspective, what you see is ordinary traffic to Cloudflare and Twilio. What is actually happening is an attacker issuing commands to a compromised machine through a communication channel your security tooling is most likely treating as legitimate. Chaos gets into your environment the same way most ransomware does, phishing your stuff over email or telephone, then installing remote management tools to maintain access. The innovation here is not the entry method, it is the persistence and command delivery mechanism. Once inside, this tool is designed to evade the monitoring you have invested in. The action Monday demanded: ask whoever runs your security tooling whether it inspects command line arguments on browser processes, not just process names. So this is the homework you should do. Whoever runs your security tooling, whoever runs your security tooling whether it inspects command line arguments on browser processes, not just process names. A process called chrome.exe is indistinguishable from this attack if you are only checking the process name. So this business story, GitHub halves its bug bounty, what it means for your security contact address. Monday's business story drew a straight line between a technology company's operational problem and the same problem arriving in your inbox. From Monday, the 27th of July, GitHub pays external security researchers a fixed $10,000 for critical vulnerability finding, down from as much as $30,000 US. The reason GitHub stated is the same reason your security inbox is harder to manage than it was 2 years ago. Artificial intelligence makes plausible-looking vulnerability reports cheap to produce. The scarce resource is no longer the finding, it is the human time required to triage whether the finding is genuine. If you publish a security contact address and the NCSC and ICO both expect you face the same maths at a smaller scale. Staff hours consumed verifying submissions that mostly go nowhere are a real cost. That cost is rising. The action to take: name the person in your organization who triages inbound vulnerability reports, set a time budget per report, and make sure they have a decision framework, not just an inbox. So for that day, we had AI in security. Now we have finished the threat. What was the threat? In AI, with regards to AI in security, an attacker ran an AI agent unsupervised inside a government finance ministry. Monday's AI intelligence item was, in my assessment, the most operationally significant AI security story of the week. Researchers at Hunt.io found exposed attacker directories showing an operator running the open source Hermes AI agent with its human approval prompts switched off, targeting Thailand's Ministry of Finance. With no human in the loop, the agent automated privilege escalation, service scanning, and file searches. One entry point was an internal service accepting any password. The operator was not present for each decision, but the agent was. The specific target, a government finance ministry, may feel distant from your organization. The mechanism does not. The same unsupervised mode that allowed an attacker to run automated reconnaissance against a government network ships in AI agent tools your own staff can install today. So the same unsupervised mode that allowed an attacker to run automated reconnaissance against a government network ships in AI agent tools your own staff can install today. The action: check whether any AI agent running in your business can execute commands without human approval and disable that setting. This is a configuration check, not a product purchase. Very simple. Just configure it, not to act without a human interface. You can do this by disabling the setting. Then it will not work. It will only work when you enable it and when you are directly seeing what it is doing. Supervision. It all comes to supervision. So Tuesday, 28th July, next day, active exploitation, ransomware psychology, and Microsoft's AI security model. Threat intelligence. Tuesday delivered the first of what would become a 4-day run of maximum severity authentication bypass vulnerabilities confirmed under active or imminent attack. Arista confirmed active exploitation of a perfect 10 severity flow CVE 2026-16812 this happened in on-premises Velo Cloud Orchestrator, the console many mid-sized firms use to manage their branch office networks. This Velo Cloud Orchestrator is a console, software console mid-sized firms use to manage their branch office networks. The flow is a complete authentication bypass. An attacker who can reach the web interface can run commands on the device without a password. So any attacker who can reach the web interface for Velo Cloud Orchestrator can run commands on the device without a password. A compromised orchestrator can then expose the edge devices it manages, turning a single entry point into access across your entire network layer. CISA gave federal agencies until Thursday, the 30th of July to patch this glitch. So that is a useful external deadline to borrow. If you run Velo Cloud on premises, patch immediately and treat your access logs from the pre-patch window as a potential breach until confirmed otherwise. Let's go to the business story for Tuesday, 28th July. We talk about the business story was what the Lockbit takedown teaches about ransomware negotiation. Ahead of a black hat presentation, the FBI detailed the mechanism by which it dismantled Lockbit. And it is not the mechanism most people assume. Lockbit was not taken down by building a better technical defense. It was taken down by breaking the trust between the group and its affiliates. That is the Lockbit ransomware gang. The FBI publicly identified Lockbit's partners, exposed them on the gang's own leak site. Ransomware as a service sells an anonymity as its primary product. When that anonymity collapsed, the affiliate network collapsed with it. The lesson for business owners is this: paying a ransom does not buy silence. The trust underpinning these criminal operations is more fragile than it appears, which is precisely why paying rarely guarantees a quiet resolution. You are negotiating with a criminal network whose promises carry no enforcement mechanism. So the action: review your incident response plan. I talked about this in the yesterday when I summarized the AI breach report for Wednesday and Friday edition, and I talked about review your incident response plan when it comes to ransomware and confirm that any ransom decision routes through law enforcement contact first, not last. So let's go to the security component of Tuesday's edition. Microsoft launched, in regard to AI in security for Tuesday's edition, Tuesday the 28th, Microsoft launched My Cyber One Flash, its first cybersecurity specific AI model. So this is a game changer for Microsoft. They launched My MAI Cyber One Flash. It's the first cyber security specific AI model from Microsoft, claiming it outperforms rivals from Anthropic, Google, and OpenAI on code vulnerability detection, while reducing inference costs by half. Built into Microsoft's M-scanning harness, it entered private preview alongside a new agentic defense platform. For organizations on Microsoft's security stack, this is worth tracking as a future cost lever, not yet a reason to change tooling before independent validation lands. So this is something you can look into. Microsoft's My Cyber One Flash, specific AI model dealing with security mainly for AI. So let's go to Wednesday, 29th July. So the main story was Team City without a password, the EU's cyber cloak, and AI builds an exploit. Those are the three stories underpinning Wednesday, 29th July. Threat intelligence, critical Team City flow lets attackers in without a password. We start with the threat intelligence. What were the threats on that day? Wednesday continued the authentication bypass sequence. JetBrains patched a maximum severity flow CVE 2026-63077 in Team City on premises. Any attacker reaching the server over the network can bypass the login screen entirely and run commands with the server's own privileges. Every on-premises version is affected. The business consequence runs beyond the server itself. Team City holds the credentials and build configurations for your software supply chain. An attacker with access can modify code going into your applications and observe what your development teams are building. The action: patch to the fixed release immediately and move the server behind a VPN not accessible from the open internet. Let's go to the business story for Wednesday, the 29th July. Brussels sets the clock on cyber rules for software sellers. The European Commission published its first official guidance on the Cyber Resilience Act this week, aimed specifically at smaller manufacturers and software firms who found the regulation hardest to interpret. The guidance changes no deadline. Incident and vulnerability reporting obligations begin the 11th of September 2026. Full compliance is required by December 2027. What the guidance provides is a clearer route to understanding what those obligations require in practice. And for many medium enterprises with any European exposure, that guidance removes the last indefensible reason for not having begun compliance work. The scope is harder. The scope is broader than many UK businesses assume. Any firm selling connected software or hardware into the EU directly or through a client's supply chain carries CRA obligations. September the 11th is not a distant horizon. It is 11 weeks away. The action: task whoever owns product compliance in your organization with reading the Commission guidance this week, not next quarter. AI in security for Wednesday, 29th July. A researcher used AI to build a working Linux root exploit. Security firm Star Labs published a working exploit that turns a Linux kernel flaw into root access and stated that AI tools assisted in finding the vulnerability and in building the exploit. The attack requires local access as a prerequisite. What it demonstrates is the compression of the immediate timeline between a raw vulnerability and a working attack when AI is applied to that development process. The implication: Linux patch management needs to operate on the same cycle as Windows systems running databases, web applications, and business process automation are increasingly treated as lower priority patching targets. That assumption no longer reflects the threat environment. Let's go to Thursday, 30th July. The main stories were VMware's double flow, the extortion bluff, and an AI platform with no front door. So the threat intelligence for Thursday, 30th of July. Critical VMware vCenter flaws let attackers walk past the login screen. Thursday threat intelligence brought the fourth consecutive day of critical authentication vulnerability, this time in VMware vCenter server. Broadcom patched two maximum severity flaws simultaneously. The first allows a remote attacker to skip authentication entirely. The second allows code execution through vCenter's logging system. No workaround exists for either. Broadcom confirmed no active exploitation at time of disclosure, but that status changes as technical details circulate. vCenter is the virtualization console many medium enterprises run through a managed service provider. If you do not know whether your environment uses it, ask today. The fixed versions are 8.0 U3K 9.0.2 and 9.1.0.0300. We'll get to it is not an acceptable response this week. The business story for Wednesday, July 30th. When a ransomware claim might be fake, you still have to treat it as real. A new extortion group, Exfil Squad, published breach claims against 15 organizations in a single day, including Analog Devices and Microsoft. Researchers noted no verifiable evidence with any claim. Here is the intelligence Thursday story was actually delivering. It does not matter whether the claim is real. Every extortion claim, genuine or fabricated, triggers the same internal response. Customer notification, review legal counsel, regulatory queries before anyone confirms whether data was actually taken. Exfil Squad has discovered that the extortion economy does not require a breach to generate costs imposed on the target. The action to take: build a fixed internal triage process for extortion claims now. Define the decision tree, the responsible individual, and the time limits at each step before you receive a claim, not during one. We go to AI in security for Wednesday, 29th July. Popular AI agent platform left its front door wide open by default. Rooflow, an open source AI agent platform used by approximately 1 million people, shipped with its control interface exposed to the open internet with no login required by default. A single web request was sufficient to run commands on the server. The maintainer patched within a day, but deployments under the old default settings remain exposed. The pattern is identical to Monday's Hermes agent story. AI platforms designed for development contexts being deployed in production with insecure defaults intact. So this Rooflow, it happens to be an open source AI agent platform. It's used by a lot of people, approximately 1 million. They shipped it with its control interface exposed to the open internet. There was no password provision. You don't need to log in. You just get on board. The action: confirm any Rooflow deployment runs version 3.16.3 or later and is not reachable from the open internet. The new version is fixing this. So if you have Rooflow, you make sure it is running the latest version 3.1.6.3 or later, and it is not accessible from the open internet. So Friday, 31st July, yesterday, we've moved swift. I thought I was not making any progress. That's good now. The Friday, the 31st July, we had Cisco's double exploit, EY's ransom deadline, and AI in the SOC, Security Operations Center. Those were the main stories. So let's start briefly. We start with the threat intelligence. Cisco Firewall Manager hit by 2 active exploits at once. Friday closed the week with the most operationally urgent threat story of the 5 days. Cisco confirmed that attackers are actively exploiting a flaw in Secure Firewall Management Center, the console many mid-sized firms use to run their network firewalls. CVE 2026 to 20-20316 is a hidden built-in login that attackers can use without a password. CVE 2026-20079 allows an attacker to take full control of the system with no credentials at all. Both are confirmed as exploited. Cisco has not stated whether the two are being chained together in active attacks. The action is immediate. If your firm runs Cisco Secure FMC, apply both hotfixes today and pull the management interface off the open internet. This is not a next maintenance window task. Now we go to the business story. EI's ransom deadline lands today. Shiny Hunters set today, the 31st of July. Sorry, today is the 1st of August. That was yesterday. Shiny Hunters set the 31st of July as the deadline for for EY, Ernst and Young, to respond before it publishes data the group claims to have stolen from a third-party help desk platform used by EY's tax practice. The alleged stolen data includes social security numbers and financial account details. The breach did not happen on EY systems. It happened on a vendor's system. EY's clients carry the exposure regardless of where the breach occurred. This is the third-party risk problem stated in its most concrete form. Your data security is only as strong as the least secure system that your vendors and their vendors use to handle your clients' information. I always talk about this even when I talk in the AI breach report or the weekend intelligence brief. The weekend intelligence brief now is general mainstream. We leave this heavy technical stuff to this issue and the week's issues. So the action, ask your major suppliers this week which of their own vendors can see your firm's sensitive data, not just which vendors you pay directly. The EY situation tells you the exposure can sit 2 layers removed from your own security controls. AI insecurity for Friday, 31st of July. Microsoft puts AI agents directly into the Security Operations Center. Microsoft detailed Project Perception, a system of AI agents working in 3 roles inside a security operations center. Some probe for weaknesses, some investigate alerts, and others harden what the first 2 find running as a continuous loop. For medium enterprises that outsource security monitoring to a managed service provider, this is a preview of how quickly the nature of that service will change. The MSP you are paying for analyst hours today will be deploying agents to replace those hours over the next 12 to 18 months. The question to ask your security provider, which parts of our monitoring are already agent-driven and who reviews the agent's decisions? So Microsoft is using a team of AI agents working in 3 different roles. Inside the Security Operations Center, some probe for weaknesses, some investigate alerts, and others harden what the first 2 find running as a continuous loop. So for medium enterprises that outsource security monitoring to an outside provider, this is a preview of how quickly the nature of that service will change. So the MSSP you are paying for analyst hours today is going to be deploying agents to replace those hours over the next 12 to 18 months. So you should ask your security provider which parts of our monitoring are already agent-driven and who reviews the agent's decisions. I was just repeating this to emphasize how important, the importance of it. So now the weekly censuses, what this week told us, this week that has ended, what did it tell us? 5 days, 5 authentication bypass vulnerabilities, chaos on Monday, hiding inside browser processes, Arista Velo Cloud on Tuesday under active attack, Team City on Wednesday with no credentials required, VMware sent on Thursday with 2 simultaneous critical flaws, and Cisco Secure FMC on Friday with 2 active exploits confirmed. This is not a coincidence. This is a feature of how enterprise software is built, deployed, and maintained. Authentication is failing as a control, not because the concept is wrong, but because implementation quality, update cadence, and internet exposure continue to lag behind the speed at which vulnerabilities are discovered and the speed at which AI tools are now enabling that discovery. Running in parallel, artificial intelligence was used as an offensive tool inside the government network on Monday. Accelerated exploit development on Wednesday, and entered the Security Operations Center as an automated defense layer on Tuesday and Friday. The technology does not have a side. It operates on behalf of whoever deploys it first and most effectively. And underneath both of those patterns, the extortion economy continued to evolve. GitHub's bugged bounty reduction on Monday, the Lockbit lesson on Tuesday, Xfuel Squad's fake claims on Thursday, the EY, Ernst & Young's vendor-delivered deadline on Friday. The common thread, the cost of the threat is no longer exclusively the cost of a confirmed breach. It is increasingly the cost of responding to the threat of one. 3 actions this week demanded. Action 1. Check your authentication bypass exposure this weekend. 5 consecutive days of critical flaws is an instruction, not a coincidence. If your organization runs Velo Cloud Orchestrator, TeamCity on premises, VMware Center, vCenter, or Cisco Secure Firewall Management Center, confirm today that your IT provider has patched to the fixed versions and has removed the management interface from the open internet. Ask for written confirmation. We'll check is not an answer. We'll check. Action 2. Audit the AI tools and agents running in your environment. Monday showed you an attacker running an AI agent without human approval. Thursday showed you an AI platform shipped with no authentication by default. Confirm that human approval is required for consequential actions and that agent control interfaces are not reachable from the internet. These are configuration checks, not procurement exercises. Action 3. Map your third-party data exposure. The EY situation, the EY Ernst & Young situation, tells you the exposure can sit 2 layers removed from your own controls. Your vendor's vendor. List the suppliers who handle your sensitive client data and ask each of them which of their own vendors can access it. That question has not been on most medium enterprise risk registers. Friday tells you it should be now. That is the intelligence picture for the week of the 27th to the 31st of July 2026. I am Frederick Wakuliaka. This has been the Frederick Cyber Security Weekly Business Intelligence Brief, the roundup that turns 15 daily stories into 3 decisions your organization needs to take before Monday. The Daily Business Intelligence Brief publishes every weekday morning on LinkedIn. Its story is there every day, Monday to Friday. The AI Breach Report publishes every Wednesday and Friday on LinkedIn and on Substack. I push it to Substack as well now, and I push it also on Facebook. And Issues of the Day, the Weekend Intelligence Brief, publishes every Saturday morning. It's out. It's going to come out later. Just as I finish this, I'm going to put it out. Subscribe to all 3. You'll find the links on LinkedIn. If you want, you go to Substack, you'll get it. Facebook also has it now. I put them out there. If this recording has been useful, share it with the person who carries security responsibility without a dedicated security team. That is exactly who this is built for, if for those who follow. Thank you for listening. So you can subscribe to my YouTube channel at Frederick Wakuliaka 4561. And I hope we shall be in touch when I come back with the weekend business intelligence summary, which is a different, have nothing to do with technical, just general stuff, geopolitics, business, and its impact on medium enterprises, policy decisions, and their likely ramifications. So, without any further delays, we'll see you again.